Brought to you by Take Root Training. Talking Potheads is a panel podcast for budtenders, bringing together experts from around the cannabis industry to discuss the fundamentals of selling weed in a dispensary. Each week, we dive into another topic to help budtenders understand these products and empower them on the sales floor. Grab some weed and your favorite munchies, and let's talk pot.
Welcome to the Talking Potheads. We're the Chronic Gals, and I'm Riley.
And I'm Ashleen. On today's show, we're talking about a product type that is just so underrated, topicals. In our budtender training course, Root Knowledge, A Budtender's Guide to Cannabis, we explain that topical preparations have been common for cannabis for a very long time. And it's now in this modern day and age that we can push cannabis topicals further than they've ever been before. Research shows that cannabinoids, especially CBD, are particularly good for skincare, and with the coming legislation for cannabis hospitality in some markets, it will be fascinating to watch and participate as weed spas and relaxation facilities open up to provide a full-body canna experience, head to toe, inside and out. Today, let's establish how topicals work, dive deeper into the various forms they take, and talk about how to talk about them. Welcome to this week's guest, Trista Okel, the founder of Empower Body Care and Empower Canna Care. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to see you all again. I think it was 2021 the last time we had a conversation.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that long ago. Feels like yesterday.
Right?
So let's tell the audience a little bit more about you, who you are, what you do, and how you got into topicals with Empower.
Yeah, great. So in 2004, a couple of things happened at the same time, in the same time period. And those things were that, one, I was acquitted of growing 3 small clones, but they had thrown the book at me. So we took it all the way to trial, and I was acquitted in 8.5 minutes by a jury. Yeah, so that immediately turned me into an activist advocate, vocal advocate for the plant. And it made me want to be an ambassador for the plant because the stigma that went with that in 2004 was pretty great. But again, I turned a negative into a positive and immediately got started just advocating with different legalization groups, Marijuana Policy Project, Americans for Safe Access, NORML, Drug Policy Alliance, and all of those different groups had different volunteer opportunities. So a couple of the things that I did were I worked on local ballot initiatives in Oregon, in Portland, and I also I helped with a few other campaigns in other states, as well as lobbying Congress in Washington, D.C. And actually with Americans for Safe Access, I got arrested on purpose in front of Health and Human Services. We just sat down, but it wasn't a big deal. But we sat down and there was 14 of us that chose to sit down out of hundreds that were at this demonstration. And we had a banner with thousands of doctors' names who had recommended cannabis to their patients for different maladies. And our whole point was, if you can't reschedule or deschedule cannabis, then why are all these doctors recommending it to their patients for things that actually work? So while I was sitting in that jail cell, we actually had a conversation about polling and approval ratings. And at that time in 2004, women were only approving of cannabis legalization at about a 30% rate, which was not enough for us to move the needle and get any sort of legalization done or any sort of legalization laws passed. That said, it was while I was sitting there with that wonderful group of activists that I came up with the acronym EMPOWER, End Marijuana Prohibition, Organize Women, and Act Reform. And right,
Nice.
And it's a throwback because now it's a non-issue, right? But at the time, it was a big issue. But also, it's nice to know that my brand and my company has advocacy and activism roots and helping to change hearts and minds to understand what a great and amazing plant the cannabis plant is. That said, I started getting into topicals because my mom hurt her back and she fell and broke her vertebrae, as well as being diagnosed with 3 forms of arthritis. So doctors immediately, it was terrible. And doctors immediately started prescribing her opiates. And I said, absolutely not. That's not the route we're going to go. And I got to work in my kitchen with my crock pot back in the day. And I made the very first version of what is now the cannabis infused topical oil, or our CBD infused topical oil. It's all the same ingredients, just different cannabinoids and different cannabinoid combinations in the products. That said, I made that product for her, and it took her from an 8 to a 3 on the pain scale
Oh my gosh.
over the course of a couple of days. Yeah, it was crazy. It gave her more relief than anything else she'd tried. And she continues to use it to this day, actually. Makes me feel really good. Now, that said, I did about 8 years of research and development and shared the product with a number of different people, elders in the community, medical marijuana patients, friends, family. And I kept hearing the same feedback every time. And what I would hear is that it was life-changing for people. And I'm a born skeptic, so it really did take a number of years for it to really sink in with me that it was really working for people. In 2013, I launched the company in the Oregon medical marijuana market, and we made the transition into rec. And now we're on the verge of launching our Empower Canacare with a new branding and new 1-to-3 ratio in the state of Arizona, actually.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's
We're really
awesome.
excited about it. There's a lot of elders in this market, and I think that we can help a lot of people.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that's a good point that that's like with the snowbird. Is that what they are? Where they
Yes.
come from the north and go to the south and like retirement. It's like a retirement space, Arizona.
Yes.
And that's a really smart
is.
of you to go open your Canacare down there because I'm sure you can help a lot of people. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think
Good
so
for
too. And
you.
I've had a number of customers from Oregon reach out and ask if it's available in Arizona, and I'm like, it will be very soon. Just hold
That'll
on.
be an exciting email to send out to everybody.
For sure. For sure.
So, first question out the gate. What is a topical? Can you explain a little bit what it is and the mechanics of how it works?
Yeah, for sure. So a cannabis topical is a topical that you apply to your skin that doesn't pass through the blood-brain barrier. So there's a couple of different things that are types of cannabis preparations that you can apply to your skin, and one is called transdermal and the other one is called topical. So I focus on topicals, meaning they don't cross the blood-brain barrier, which means that if you use them, they won't show up on a drug test, right? However, transdermals do, and they have chemicals in them that push the cannabinoids and anything else in the transdermal product through the layers of skin, through the layers of derma, into the bloodstream. And a topical can be anything from an oil, a cream, a lotion, a salve, a balm, soaking salts, sprays, gels. They come in all different kinds of formats.
I guess I didn't really think about like bath salts or soaking salts as a topical, but I guess when you think about it, longer than 5 seconds, it's totally a topical. It just hangs
Right?
out on your skin.
Yeah, because you're in the water and so are the cannabinoids and they're getting it in through your skin. Now, that said, just because it doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier doesn't mean that it isn't interacting with different receptors in your skin that are connected to your central nervous system. So that does happen when topicals are applied.
So can you get high using a topical with a THC in it?
Oh, so that's a complicated question. So if the topical has lots of sesquiterpenes in it, making it transdermal, and say the topical chemist, the cosmetic chemist making the product didn't understand that sesquiterpenes can cause a product to be transdermal, then technically, yes.
Interesting. I had always heard no, but I appreciate that answer because it is always more complex than just yes or no, isn't it?
Yes, right? For the most part, though, that's not the case. You would have to have quite a bit of a sesquiterpene in there to make it transdermal. So it would probably be irritating to the skin, or it would be like a very serious chemical, right? In order to make it transdermal. Now, topicals, for the most part, absolutely not. Not to mention just the amount of cannabinoids of THC that's in a topical for most topical companies is very low. And so no. I guess the answer is no. But I wanted to clarify, just in case someone is making stuff at home, that they could create something that could be transdermal that you could get high from, but the chances are very low. Now, that said, one product that is considered a topical is used on mucous membranes that my company makes, Empower Canacare makes. So we make something called Foreplay, and it's a spray. It's an oil-based spray, so it's not latex safe, but you spray it on mucous membranes, and when you do that, it does cross the blood-brain barrier just a little. So that is the other, if you put a THC topical on mucous membranes, which I don't recommend doing unless it's made specifically for that purpose, because it could screw up your pH, right? These are the important things to know. Then yes. On that skin, yes, because they're mucous membranes.
So interesting. I also appreciate that you're bringing in the idea of mucous membranes for that area of the body, because one of the questions that we're gonna bring up a little later was just how do you talk about things like that? So maybe we'll come back. We'll put a pin in it and come back. But yeah. Okay, so sesquiterpenes, is there a particular sesquiterpene, because we learned about them in a previous episode, that people should know is something that can activate that transdermal property?
Yeah, beta-caryophyllene. So any terpene with beta-caryophyllene, or any formulation that has an essential oil or something in it with large amounts of beta-caryophyllene, that could cause a product to be transdermal. But again, it would have to be like 1%, like 2%, something like that. It would have to be almost irritating to the skin and not smell very good for that to happen.
Beta-caryophyllene is a little gremlin. It seems to be like a
that also triggers CB receptors.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just stands out amongst the terpenes.
Yeah. Is that
it does
vasodilator, or is that the?
It is.
It is.
Oh
okay.
no.
Or is that pinene?
Wait a minute. Oh.
That might be pinene no, that's a bronchodilator. Same.
I'll look it up.
We might have to look.
We talked about that in another episode too. So.
Yeah.
It's been a minute for me. It's been a minute for me on that research. Oh, beta-caryophyllene is also the one that smells like black pepper, that if you get too high, you're supposed to be able to smell it and feel a little better. I have not tested that theory.
I know, I haven't yet either.
But I think it does act as a modulator for THC as well.
Yeah, it is an interesting one.
I think pinene is the vasodilator.
Yep.
Not
it would make sense. Yeah. If I think about just the functions of those two terpenes, it would make more sense for pinene to be the vasodilator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it opens the lungs, brings.
Because it's definitely a bronchodilator.
Yeah.
Okay, so be careful. Yeah, just be aware whenever you're using beta-caryophyllene, it's going to do some crazy stuff.
For sure.
So how long does, wait, the topicals don't get you high, but they have beneficial effects.
Correct.
Still, you
want to know how?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so people may ask, if a topical can't get you high, how can it have positive effects? How can it give you relief, right? And for me, I also needed to know that, because as far as I was concerned, at least for the first 8 years that I've been making at least that one product, I was completely skeptical of how they could possibly work. And I thought there might be some sort of placebo effect, right? That's not the case. What I learned, because I did a very deep dive into a lot of medical journals and continue to do so, is different cannabinoids interact with different receptors in the skin. And these receptors, they work for all sorts of different things. For instance, in my topical products, my Canacare products that are available in regulated cannabis dispensaries, I use THCA instead of THC, because THCA actually works better than THC does topically to help with pain and inflammation, right? Basically what THCA does is that it inhibits TNF alpha, which reduces inflammation. It also inhibits COX-1 and COX-2, which are anti-inflammatory receptors. So it's working on those three receptors, TNF alpha, COX-1, and COX-2. It also works with TRPM8, that receptor, which is also known as the menthol receptor. So you don't have to smell like menthol. You could just use a topical with THCA in it, and you'll get a better effect, longer lasting effect without the feeling of it cooling or warming like most menthol products make people's skin feel when they use it. And that's all because these receptors just send a signal to the brain saying to reduce inflammation locally, exactly where you put the topical, right? And then also it acts as CBD actually acts as what's called an antinociceptive and sends a signal to the brain to reduce the body's response to painful stimuli, therefore making it feel less pain, right? So CBD interacts with a couple of different receptors as well. It activates the TRPV1 receptor, and that receptor, TRPV1, regulates pain, inflammation, and its whole goal is to create homeostasis in the skin. What we're looking for always, or in the body really, because these receptors are located all over the body. Homeostasis is really what CBD does in general. It gets you to a point of balance in your body, and that's why we use it. So CBD actually suppresses the receptor TNF alpha, which is a pro-inflammatory receptor. And when you suppress it, you're reducing inflammation. That said, CBD is really amazing. THCA is also amazing, but CBD is my favorite as far as these topical aspects go. So CBD also activates PPAR gamma, which is an enzyme that regulates inflammation. And so when you apply CBD to it, it reduces to the skin, it reduces that inflammation locally. Now that said, topically, THCA also activates TRPA1 receptor, the TRPA1 receptor, in addition to the TRPM8 receptor. I know this is all, I'm used to people's eyes glazing over at this point, but by doing that, it regulates inflammation and pain sensations in the skin, really going for that same homeostasis that CBD does. THCA also engages CB1 in the skin and binds to both CB1 and CB2 receptors.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Lots of lots of letters, lots of acronyms and receptors and stuff. But I think just the ultimate thing to take away is that it helps with inflammation and it helps with pain.
And it
Correct.
interacts with the endocannabinoid system to do all of that.
And it all happens within the skin, within the millimeter of dermal layers here.
Yes, but also though, it is sending the signals to the brain through those receptors.
Yes, the brain too.
Which is why it can work deeper. It can really help and work deeper than, say, arnica. Right.
Oh, because arnica is not activating nervous system receptors in the same way. Not in the same way.
Not as efficiently, for sure.
And then is it cumulative? How fast can people expect to see effects?
Well, everybody is different, right? And I've also noticed, this is observational or anecdotal, I guess, but I've noticed over the years that folks who deal with a lot of chronic pain tend to have a better response over the course of a couple of days if they do what I refer to as front loading. It is cumulative for most people, although I've had lots and lots of people try it once and say that it worked great. But for most people, I recommend what I refer to as front loading, which is a cumulative process. You apply a small amount of a topical and you rub it all the way in, and you do that multiple times in a row for the first few days. I like to tell a story about my wife when she works on computers all the time, and she came home one day at 2 p.m. when we first got married, and she just started applying she had really bad carpal tunnel, and to the point where her hands and fingers wouldn't work anymore. And she started applying. She was using my oil, actually. She started applying the oil over and over again and rubbing it all the way in over the course of a 2.5-hour British movie. At least in my head, it was 2.5 hours because it was British.
Forever long.
Totally. So she starts applying it, and by the end of the movie, she was completely fine. And she didn't even need to use the oil. She did use it a couple times a day after that, but she missed a couple of days and she was totally fine, had no symptoms for 2 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah. So the cumulative thing really works, and the front loading thing really works.
Interesting. Do you have any theories as to why the front loading thing works so well as opposed to just a slow dose, low and slow? like an edible?
I know that more all at once doesn't work because it doesn't absorb into the skin fast enough. So I think what we're doing when we're inundating those receptors is we're teaching it a new language. That's what it feels like to me. Prior to all this, we never applied CBD to our skin. I didn't go out to the garden and rub my arms with CBD dominant strains and get and feel better about it.
Yeah.
That didn't work. So it really feels to me like we're teaching our bodies a new language by giving it a little bit at a time. That's a weird analogy, but it's an analogy nonetheless.
I like it though.
Yeah, I get it. Because if you're introducing this stuff to your body, that it's not, you can't overload it. Like even with THC or when you smoke it, like there's really like a peak high, and then you're just like chasing that peak forever and ever. So it would make sense that with CBD in your skin, it would take a little bit of time to get your whole body, especially like your dermis is like your biggest organ, right? So it needs time to absorb into your whole system.
That's what I would think too. Now, that said, I say the same thing for instructions on how to use the THCA CBD topical. However, the one difference between the two products, because again, they're identical except for the cannabinoids, is that the one with THCA in it works faster at first.
And we think that's because of the THCA?
I do.
Wow.
I do think it's because of the THCA. But I think you get similar results using the two products, but again, the one with THCA in it does work faster.
Checks out. Stone logic checks out.
And then
a lot of this is theory though, because there hasn't been a lot of research done.
Yeah.
And usually they're small samples. There was a small research study a couple years ago where they used an infused cream or a lotion on athletes over the course of a period of time, and it was just CBD. So it was a CBD isolate product and I don't know if it had, the abstract on the study didn't give enough information about whether there was any essential oils in it or anything like that. I know that I have found that straight CBD in lotion doesn't do a lot. You really do need the other things, the other essential oils to work with it to get a better effect. But they still found success in that study with CBD and lotion.
That's cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Weed is cool.
So then you mentioned
it's such an awesome plant.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many uses, so variable. Yeah, it's so cool. But you mentioned before that you refer THCA for topicals to THC. Is there THC in your CannaCare products, and which makes it appropriate for the regulated cannabis industry, or is it, how does that work? What's the difference between CannaCare and Body Care?
So the CannaCare line has there's the 4-ped product, which is completely THC. There's no CBD in it, and there's no THCA in it. It is straight THC. Now, the other products in the line have a THCA CBD ratio of 1:3 with a very small amount of THC in it just to open up the receptors. And it opens some receptors that THCA doesn't, and then but it's not necessary for the overall effect. The overall effect is greater with a THCA product versus a THC product. Does that make sense?
Yes. So what would be an appropriate case to go for a THC-based topical versus THCA or CBD? Who is the THC product for?
Honestly, I think that most THC CBD products because most products now on the market are 1-to-1, right? Or some ratio of both, because the industry is caught up to knowing that CBD actually serves a really important role in those types of products. The only reason I can think of to use THC instead of THCA would be 2 reasons. One, if you're going to use it on the mucous membranes. Right. That's a very good usage for it. Secondly, THC is much, much cheaper than THCA. In order to get THCA, you're either using live resin, some sort of diamond product like and it's much more expensive than, say, distillate, which is what 99% of THC topicals are made of. I think there is some pain relieving effects with THC in topicals, but they're not as great. They're not as great as they are with THCA and CBD. Now,
Interesting.
why would people use it? I could see it potentially working on sore muscles.
Okay.
Right? I could see that. Anything that needs more of a relaxing effect versus anti-inflammatory or relieving. Honestly, if I thought the THC and CBD, if I thought a THC topical would work as well, I'd make one.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's the THCA thing isn't a gimmick and isn't just to set us apart. It really is because from the research and development I've done and just the sheer number of anecdotal surveys I've received over the years when I was experimenting with both, I just learned that the THCA worked far better. That's why.
That's cool. I think we hear a lot about THC, and like that's the hero of the industry right now is like
Right.
THC and percentages and like all of this misinformation right now. And it's exciting to see that there is another perspective in the industry that is more leaning towards like all the other cannabinoids, and to find that there's like a cool reason to use THCA other than just like spraying your hemp with it. There's like an actual reason that THCA is valuable beyond what you would think, like to light it on fire and consume it. It's like rubber bodies with it.
Yeah, I guess we should probably also say that in case folks don't know, THCA is tetrahydrocannabinolic acid. Mm-hmm. So it's how it comes naturally on the plant before it's decarboxylated. So I don't know if everybody knows. I know that you two know that, but I don't know if everybody else does.
If they've been listening to the series, then they should know that.
Yeah.
But if you are just tuning into this episode, that is what
now
correct.
And now you know.
What do you say to customers who are surprised at the cost for topicals? Because they can tend to run more expensive than customers are expecting.
Yeah, first of all, if you look at a typical, say, edible, you've got the edible, it's in a package, and you're done. Usually it's a pouch or a box, or what are the child-resistant tubes, the squeeze tubes?
Oh, the
what are those called?
Squeezies.
Little doob tubes or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll find that packaging is very cheap. When you think about a topical product, for instance, you've got the bottle, you've got the box, you've got the label, you've got the testing sticker, you've got the safety seals, you've got basically you have so many more touch points, right? And if you think about producing a product, every time you touch the product, it costs money, right? So first, you have to infuse something, right? Which with any consumer packaged good product, you're going to have to do that with edibles or whatever. But then let's talk about my salts for a minute, just because I know how expensive those are to make. So you've got, first you make the topical product, the oil that you infuse into the salt, right? So then after you've made that, you've infused it, you've let it cool, you've added all the other ingredients, then you're adding it to the soaking salts or to the actual salt, and it has to be mixed. So then after you do that, then you're pouring it into great big bins, and then you're either using a filling machine or you're scooping by hand into each bag. So you've basically had to touch this product so many times that the labor costs alone go up significantly. Mm-hmm. And the packaging is just so much more. For instance, if I were going to put out edibles in a little pouch, the little pouch would be very cheap, right? But I'm spending lots of dollars on the bottle, and like for my oil, for instance, the bottle, the roll-on, the lid, those are all separate components that I have to buy separately, right? And then I have to get the boxes printed and the label, and it's a lot more touch points, and it's a lot more expensive in the ingredients as well. Because if you really think about the whole chain, you've got the cannabis that grows, and then you have to pay to have the cannabis processed. Once it's processed and it's in a format that you can use in the product, right? So there's just a lot more touch points That's a lot further down the line than, say, flower or a vape cartridge, or it stops. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think actually I have a question about the type of concentrate that goes into the topical, because when we learned about concentrates, it's like fire in, fire out. Is
Yep.
that a nug run type of concentrate creating the best concentrate? And I know this is a little bit different, but when you do topical concentrates, are you looking for the best of the best, or can you use the trim or whatever? Or am I asking a proprietary question?
I mean, I'm happy to answer it. So it's slightly proprietary, but it's fine.
Don't share anything you don't want to share. Now I'm
Fine.
just curious.
No, it's okay. With topical concentrates, or with concentrates that we use in topicals, there's a fine line, right? Because we want the products to smell nice, but not smell weedy.
That
So
makes sense.
I wouldn't use the same stuff that I would want to dab, because I want a very high terpene profile on anything that I want to inhale. But with a
Right.
topical, I want it to be stronger. So I want to use the least amount that I can use in order to not have oleoresins and waxes in excess in the formulation.
Mhm.
So I want what your average consumer wants, unfortunately. So it does have to be a high enough quality for it to be a high number, a high percentage of potency with a lower terpene profile.
Okay.
I use terpenes from essential oils that are the same terpenes found in the cannabis
Mhm.
plant, right? But the way that I mix them with plant-based essential oils for my products, it smells better than something weedy. Like if I use a topical on my hand, I don't want to smell it and smell weed,
Totally.
right?
Yeah.
I want to smell it and smell something that I would want someone else to smell as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That
And
makes sense.
a lot of topical users are 50 plus. So
They want to smell nice. You're able to control the aroma better when you're adding the terpenes back
Yeah.
in later. It reminds me of
Yes.
what they say about buying butter at the grocery store. You should buy unsalted butter so you can control the amount of salt in your final dish. It's like
yes,
buy low terpene concentrates so that
Yeah,
you can
yeah.
control the terpene profile at the end.
exactly.
Totally.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, of
I'm
course.
just thinking like a really low cost topical that doesn't really, someone who doesn't really care about what's going on. You'd like maybe not the most ethical person making topicals could just buy whatever weed that they find on the road or whatever and
Yeah.
make a topical, which would not be as good as yours. But I'm just like, who knows the people who are creating things in the market these days?
Yeah.
And so for the listeners and the budtenders selling these products, there's like a difference between a higher price point topical and a
Mhm.
low price point topical. Like
Mhm.
there is a difference in the cannabis that is inside of those.
I think what a lot of companies do is they take the bottom of the barrel of whatever they have. Like maybe a vertically integrated company could take the bottom of the barrel of whatever they have, the distillate that turned out to be 50%, that kind of thing. And what is in the other 50%? That's my question. But
Good question.
it's probably waxes and oleoresins and a bunch of stuff that actually irritates skin.
Not very clean distillate then.
I'm just saying. Or like CO2, right?
Yeah.
If they don't go through the process of doing an ethanol wash on CO2 oil, it's totally full of oleoresins and all the things. And that requires heat, which is why I can't use CO2 extracts in my products, because it's going to, so those are going to irritate skin. They're going to be sticky. We've all tried a cheap topical product that feels slightly sticky on the skin, maybe has a slightly, back in the old days, has a slightly green hue to it, or something homemade. We've seen that a lot. But yeah, a lot of the companies that are vertically integrated will use the bottom of the barrel in their topicals, and it's cheap for a reason. Just know that it's always cheap for a reason.
Yeah. And so would the COA have the testing if there was like all of those waxes and stuff? Would the COA have that type of testing or no?
No.
We just wouldn't know at all what's.
No, and the COA in most states, I don't think the COA, they show the COA for the source product.
Oh, that's right.
Sure.
That's right. That's right.
Right? Because if it's there and that it's a 50 or 60% potency extract or concentrate that they've used in the product, that would be a thing that would make you go, but like in Oregon, for instance, that's not required. So you can't see the source, like the end consumer can't see the source product.
All right. I think I'm just scratching my own curiosities at this point, but
What we're here for.
Just know that if a product is super cheap, it's probably that way for a reason.
yeah. Thank you. I'm glad we said that just straight out. I think. Yeah. Okay, so then what type of customer or what kind of customer is a topical for?
Yeah, so topicals are for folks who are having pain or inflammation issues, or maybe even some sort of skin trauma stuff like eczema or psoriasis. It's for people that want to get relief without getting high or without potentially taking ibuprofen and over the course of many years and potentially damaging their kidneys, that kind of thing. So it's for folks who want relief, don't want to get high, but want to have a better, higher quality of life. And we typically find that in either people with chronic conditions that are younger, but they're a one-off, or people who are, okay, so we also have a category of folks like I refer to as yoga moms. They're 35 to 45. They really care about what they put in their body. They really want to get greater relief with, again, without feeling high, but also without damaging any sort of internal organs by taking a pill. And then for the most part, we see a lot of folks 50 plus who are using our product.
We've talked on other episodes too, how topicals are such a great entry point for people
Yes.
who are unfamiliar with the cannabis industry, or at least the modern cannabis industry. Maybe
Yeah.
they smoked a long time ago and put it down, and now they're older and they have aches and pains and they want to revisit. And topicals are such a great thing for that.
Yeah, we see that all the time. So I like to refer to topical products as ambassador products because they're an ambassador for the plant, right? And I cannot tell you, I can't count how many people who I've helped to change hearts and minds with, right? My favorite story on that is this older couple, they're 88 now. I think going on 89. Yeah, going on 89. They live in Ontario, Oregon, and I refer to them as my second parents nowadays.
Aww.
They're just so sweet. When I first met them, they were very anti-cannabis, but they had arthritis. And this is back in the day before I even had a label or a brand. And I gave the mom of this couple a roll-on bottle of oil. And I said, it will not get you high. It's just going to help with pain. Give it a shot. So she did, and it worked wonders for her. So then I gave her a small jar. I gave her like a pint jar full of the oil. And I said, and I gave her a little syringe to fill the roll on with. And I said, okay, so here's the deal. Use this every day. And remember, I've changed the hearts and minds, right? Like then the dad came along and started using the products too. Anyway, so I gave her this and I said, use it every day for 3 months. As many times as you want. And I'm going to drug test you in the end. And I did. And of course she passed. So it's experiences like that where you get really conservative folks who are older using the product and then sharing it with their friends and family that you get to change hearts and minds and watch as people's entire view on cannabis changes.
Yeah, it's so cool. My mother-in-law went through a bout with cancer a couple years ago and ended up with some neuropathy in her feet and her calves. And she used your body oil. We ordered some online and she loves it. She still uses, still uses it. Just now having been healed for probably 2.5 years or so. Yeah, she uses it for all of her residual aches and pains, recovering from chemo and radiation and stuff like that. And yeah, it really does. You don't think that a topical is going to be so impactful because you think lotion, you think hydrocortisone cream, you think these really innocuous things that are just going on your skin and it's going to make you smell good or make your skin moisturized. And then someone comes along and says, hey, use this. Oh, I have a sore muscle. Use this CBD oil on my muscle. And then it just melts away. And you're like, what just happened?
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people with neuropathy have written in and told me that, or called and told me how much it helps them. It's really it's a big deal for a lot of people. I can't tell you how many people call topicals life-changing. I know you're right, it does seem trivial if you don't really have aches and pains, but if you do and it's having a negative impact on your life and you can put something on your body that, yes, if it's moisturizing and it feels good, that's an added bonus, but something that actually helps with pain and inflammation, it really is life-changing for a lot of people.
I love it. So let's go down through some of the common uses. I know we've been talking about it throughout this whole thing. What are some of the most common body care uses for topicals?
Yeah, a lot of folks will use it for arthritis. That's probably number one. I can't tell you how many people have told me they use my oil specifically to get through to a knee replacement. I've heard that a lot. Carpal tunnel, gout. I've heard of restless leg syndrome. What else? Sore muscles, faster recovery after working out. What else? Headaches.
Totally.
Have you ever had a headache and you literally put it where it hurts, especially the oil?
Yeah. Love it. Migraines like right here around the temples. Oh yeah.
Yep. Bruises, bug bites, psoriasis, eczema, sometimes a minor rash. It was the weirdest thing. I had this, what I learned is that my skin was really dry and it was becoming inflamed. But what I had this little bit of a rash on on the lower part of my shin and the top of my foot, just a little bit, like maybe that much length of that area altogether, right? But it was annoying and it itched sometimes and it was awful. So I went to the dermatologist actually, and the dermatologist said, oh, use this, what do you call it? Hydrocortisone cream. Use this hydrocortisone cream. And I'm like, hydrocortisone actually makes your skin thinner. You can only use it for 2 weeks. I'm not sure I want to use that. So I didn't. And instead, I used one of my CBD, just a straight CBD lotion. And the one with the most mild scent, which is the lavender bergamot one. And I use that and I use it every day. And my rash went away in 2 weeks, like completely. And what I realized is that it was just dry skin because it was so dry, because I'm in Arizona right now, it was so dry that it actually was causing a rash. So
yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah. I have the driest elbows in all the land.
You probably have.
And I totally get like a dry skin rash on my elbows. So I'm like, let me load up, move up my bows with some.
Yeah, and for that, I highly recommend a lotion.
A lotion?
Yeah, use a lotion. Yeah, it'll help. And the cannabinoids just really balance it.
Yeah.
And it'll create that homeostasis too. That's the other thing too, is the cannabinoids are creating homeostasis. It's hitting it from a number of different points to not just moisturize. Like, I don't think Lubriderm would have done it.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't test it, but I guess I could let my one leg go for a while. And next time you have me on, I could let you know how it goes.
Yeah, give us the update. One thing that I like to use CBD topicals for that a lot of people don't really think about is burns and sunburn. First degree, second degree, little kitchen burns, nothing crazy. But I've used it and it's left me with no scar on wherever the burn was.
Banger burns?
Banger burns, totally. Dab burns.
Yeah.
I was smoking an infused
one once.
I was smoking an infused joint the other day that had crystals crushed up on the outside, and the wax melted down and burned me. I did not put CBD oil on that. I forgot. I didn't think about it.
Oh yeah, that'll definitely help. Especially if it has something like peppermint in it. It'll also feel cooling.
Okay, yeah, totally.
That's a good idea.
I always figured to just use one with no essential oil or anything in it at all because it might irritate it. But I like the peppermint. Makes sense.
Yeah, I like that. If I get a sunburn, I like the peppermint juniper. I don't use it on my face because my skin is really sensitive, but I use it like on my body if I get a sunburn. I forgot about sunburns. Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Oh, so many. I've heard from so many servers who use either the peppermint juniper or the oil on their feet.
Oh, on their feet.
Good point.
Nice.
Mhm.
That would
Yeah.
be real nice after a long shift. For sure.
Or a soak with the
Totally.
salts. Ooh,
Soak.
like a foot soak.
Oh yeah, there's another cramps.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yep.
Of course.
Yep, for that. I'm really not trying to plug my own products here. It's not on purpose.
You
But
just have it solves all the problems.
And if somebody
Right?
doesn't carry your stuff, then they can maybe they'll find something similar in their own store
Yeah.
that they carry.
sure.
Plug away.
Exactly. Yeah, so cramps, I like the soaking salts for cramps. I like the foreplay actually works for that as well. So
Oh.
that's a good use for THC, right? Like through the mucous membrane. Yeah, that's helping.
Totally.
And then I like to use the oil just on lower abdomen.
Okay.
That works.
Mhm.
Yeah. What else? Oh, people also use the soaking salts just in general for relaxation. Part of the reason they work so well is because Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, has a lot. Basically, it triggers serotonin production in the brain as it absorbs in the skin. It also helps to hydrate your skin, and it is also going for that kind of homeostasis that CBD does and
Cool.
THCA does in the skin. Yeah.
Oh,
I love some Epsom salts.
yeah.
Love a good
Me
soak.
too. Same.
Okay, what about skincare issues? We talked a lot about body care. What about skincare?
Yeah. So a lot of folks use my CBD oil, not the THCA one, but the CBD one for blemishes. I've seen that often. Every once in a while, I'll get a little dash of eczema, like on my eyelid or like over here in my hairline. And I use the oil maybe 5 or 6 times and it goes away.
Cool.
Yeah. Also, CBD is an amazing, I don't personally, my company does not have a skincare product right now, but CBD oil is an amazing antioxidant and they always translate antioxidant into anti-aging.
With the skincare, you gotta
So-
always think about those wrinkles.
So it's good for that as well. CBD can be good for that as well in skincare.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Everything.
Everything.
Put your CBD on everything.
Windex.
Oh yeah.
Everything.
Have you ever seen My Big Fat Greek Wedding?
Yes,
Yes.
You know how they use Windex?
totally.
Yes.
That's how I use the oil, except I would never
Just
use it on
everything.
windows.
Oh my gosh, CBD your windows.
CBD your windows.
Yeah, that'd be
It
terrible.
really-
Oh yeah, that's something that's
it's
really
a whole
funny. Have you
shit.
seen the CBD sheets and stuff? Have you seen this?
No. Ooh, tell us more. Say more.
Is it a fake?
Remember when I told you I'd never make a gimmick? I will never make a gimmick. You know what I think CBD sheets are? Big fat gimmick. It's if they're infused with CBD, it might work once.
As soon as they're washed,
I also
Yeah.
saw
if
C-
they're
I saw CBD
If they're actually
candles.
infused. Candles?
Candle.
Candles. I don't think that's
Like a massage oil candle?
no, like a light on the like you just put it on the table and you light it and you sniff it. I don't think I think that was a gimmick. It was at Fred Meyer's also. Probably a gimmick.
Gimmick.
That's a fun game. We should make this a game.
Yeah.
Gimmick or real.
Yeah, I feel like we should have a little horn and say and call it the bullshit
Yeah, the bullshit horn.
detector.
Yeah.
Ah, bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, speaking of gimmicky products, there are a bunch of unusual topical products, not gimmicks, but unusual, and we have
Okay.
touched on them. Transdermal patches, which don't quite fit under the topical realm, and then the sensual lubricants and massage oils, which I want to talk about how to talk about them. But let's start with the transdermal patches. At the beginning of the episode, you explained how the transdermal works. What can you
Right.
tell us about the patches?
So I have used a patch a couple of times, just in R&D stuff, right? And I found that they worked. They did put cannabinoids into my bloodstream. It was fairly pleasant. I feel like for the money, I'd rather eat an edible. I can get one of those a lot less expensive. With a transdermal, it's going to work faster. So that's definitely a pro.
And I imagine these products are for people who are really experiencing long-term, deep-seated aches, pains, inflammation.
Yeah, and transdermal doesn't just work where you put it on either. Topical product only works where you put it on. If your knee hurts and you put it on your elbow, it's not going to help. So if they're using it for pain, which I did not notice an effect on my pain that I was dealing with when I tried the transdermal, but that doesn't mean that they don't work, right? Everybody is different. I think it could work for that, and I think it could be more of a time release. That said, you have to use somewhat harsh chemicals to make a transdermal product, and I wasn't willing to do that. But I think there's a place for them in the market for sure, as long as wherever they're making them is literally at pharmaceutical grade standards as far as the facility.
I just had a funny thought. I just had an image of somebody who bought a transdermal patch. It irritated their skin. They go back to the bud tender and they're like, what do I do about my irritated skin? And they're like, here's some CBD oil.
In an edible.
Yep.
Should have started with that. But I do know that there are people who enjoy the transdermal patches and it works very well for them. So it really is.
Yeah.
We've said this again and again all season long. Like, you have to experiment and try things and see what works for you.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Be willing to go on the journey.
Yeah, totally. And again, like it's very enticing to me and probably to people who are dealing with chronic pain is to have a slow and low dose delivery system, like a transdermal patch, is probably a lifesaver for a lot of folks.
Yeah.
I know that they do other medication, like they do opiates that way as well.
Right.
Sometimes, I think, which I'm not advocating for in any way, shape, or form, but it is a way to give a time released dose of any active ingredient.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you talked about you wanted to talk about or touch on lubes and essential oils, yeah?
Yes.
Mhm.
Let's bounce there next.
Okay. So a lubricant would most likely be something that I would hope that it would be water-based so that it could be used with latex. Anything oil-based should never be used with latex, and if you're hoping that the latex will protect you from anything. I have to talk about the safe sex part first.
Totally.
Yeah, so what I found is CBD tends to be numbing in that way, slightly numbing, which might be great for some people, but we'll see. I need to do more research on straight CBD and full spectrum CBD, so CBD with a tiny bit of THC with it. I really need to do more R&D in that realm to see that if it would be something that I think would be a worthwhile product. In my initial research, what I found was what I just stated, that I found the CBD to be slightly numbing versus invigorating and enlivening. And what I find is the best cannabinoid for essential oil or a lubricant would be THC. That to me seems like the best, at least in my own personal R&D, as well as feedback I've gotten from a number of different testers, folks who want to try the products and give their feedback.
That's so interesting. And of course, my mind goes to THC products for the vagina, CBD product for the anus, the back door. Like there really could be a market there, and very niche, but a market there for somebody.
For sure. Yeah, definitely.
I never would have thought about that. That's so interesting. And hadn't heard the numbing part.
Yeah, to me, it always seemed slightly numbing. Yeah, I could see it being useful in that way, actually. But it also could be potentially dangerous, right? Because there's pain for a reason.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be a fine balance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
Using the right amount. But yeah, that could definitely be used for that purpose.
So then I feel like a lot of the times when I see essential lubricant on the market, an infused lube, they say that it's also good to be used as a massage oil. Do you agree with that? Or do you think that are like two different products?
To me, that just means that if you've seen it on the market and that's how they're advertising it, that, okay, let me put it this way. So my foreplay product, which is a THC infused sensual oil, is an organic fractionated coconut oil base, also known as MCT oil, but specifically from coconuts versus other sources of MCT oil, right? That means that it's always a liquid product. I would not use fractionated coconut oil as a massage oil, personally. I would use that specifically so that it can be absorbed by the mucous membranes. What I would use for massage oil would be like grapeseed, organic jojoba oil, those kinds of oils, but I would not use those on the mucous membranes. A product that says that it can be used for both brings me a little bit of pause.
Totally.
Right? But I'm also very particular, and I know the different properties of the different oils that we're talking about, and I want to make sure that whatever we use on mucous membranes of the genitalia are all in the right pH range.
Totally.
Yeah. So it does bring me a little pause to think about using a product like that for both massage and sensual. Also, I want it to be more concentrated, right? Like I want to use a small amount,
make it last long,
just enough.
Yeah.
And I want it to give me the desired effects. If you're going to use it, I would think that something that you're going to use, say vaginally or whatever, you would want to be more concentrated, and you don't want an oily mess down there.
Sure.
Right? So yeah, I don't know. That's my take. But again, I really am. I'm thinking more in terms of user experience, because whenever I design a product, I think about user experience as how it looks, how you can utilize it easiest, what an effective dosage is going to be, how it smells, how it feels, how it tastes, or whatever. At least for that kind of a product, you want to consider all that. And I would not create a product that would do both, or that I would want to use for both.
Makes sense.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What's a desired dose? I'm assuming that you're in your bottle, it's 100 milligrams, 850. So I guess this is something that you probably have to figure out yourself, but what's a regular dose of lubricant?
Right. So with my particular product, it is 6 to 8 sprays.
Oh,
and each spray, there's about 80 sprays per bottle, and it's about 150 milligrams per bottle of THC. You're using, what is that?
15-ish?
15? Yeah. Yeah, about 15 milligrams of THC.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
depends on how your tolerance is, though, Riley.
Yeah, no, I'm like curious about what the mucous membranes is that
like what that feels like.
Yeah, like when you digest cannabinoids, it does that liver process. And so what's the process with your mucous membranes down there?
So women who've tried my product specifically, who don't use cannabis in any other way. And what it feels like is slightly relaxing. As far as the head goes, it's slightly relaxing. It's not, they don't feel high. Right?
Okay.
They don't feel high. Yeah. Mostly what it does is it is a vasodilator. And so it's bringing more blood flow to the area and making it feel more enlivened, so to speak. And just feeling more into it. So the feedback I've received is that it lowers inhibitions a little bit. It's a little relaxing. It turns up the intensity of orgasms, and it makes them last longer than they would without it. And then I've also received feedback from women who experience pain during intercourse, who have told me that it not only got rid of the pain so they could be with their partner and not experience pain, which for one woman, it had been 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Right. So it does that, but it also increases the intensity of the orgasm as well. And then I've also heard from women who are menopausal who have told me, and I don't have any hard data on this, and I don't have personal experience, so I can't speak to this one either, but like personally, but I've heard that it helps to get their own moisture flowing.
Yeah,
You
totally.
know?
Yeah. So
And about how long does it take to kick in?
in my experience, 20 minutes.
That's been my experience, not with your product, but with other products. You got to freshen up before you get into the main show.
Yeah, for sure.
Have some fun in between.
That's the reason I named it what I named it.
Yeah, totally.
It's indicating that it's for before.
And then it being a product uncomfortable to talk about with any random person off the street, what would you recommend? What do you tell budtenders? What do you tell budtenders to teach them how to sell your product, your sensual lubes?
That has always been the biggest challenge
Totally.
in the whole line. Yeah, especially you get a young guy, a budtender who really doesn't want to talk about it at all. So
yeah.
for some of them, they're like, no, it's not going to happen. For others, though, it's been interesting. We basically, if I talk about it in terms of if I use for some folks, using scientific terminology is helpful. I tell them to apply it to the in people presenting with female genitalia, to apply it to the labia and maybe a little bit in the opening of the vagina, and that's fine. And it really, most people's faces turn red if I talk about it like that.
Totally.
And any person can use it anally. That said, most of the time I use terms like down there.
Mm-hmm. And mucus membranes.
I like
mucus membranes down there.
I like that one.
Yeah, I definitely say mucus membranes and down there.
Yeah. People get it.
They do. They do. And those who have tried it and love it, like I hear from the folks who love it a lot.
Totally. They're happy to sing the praises.
Yeah.
For sure. I know a lot of guys who purchase it for their partner, for their female partner.
Totally.
Yeah.
All right, one last question, just because I'm thinking about it. So you say 6 sprays. What if they just pour like the whole thing? Are we gonna explode? Are we gonna like combust? Are we gonna green out? If we just overindulge?
All right, so here's my story for that.
Good, yes.
Yeah, so this is okay. It is what it is. So I was on the road. I was training a new salesperson a number of years ago. And out of nowhere, that time of the month came up, and I didn't have any ibuprofen with me. And all I had was in my bag was a bottle of this stuff, right? So we pulled over, I went into a restroom, and I just sprayed this is so embarrassing. I just sprayed the hell out of myself. And I just sprayed a lot on, probably 25, 30 sprays. I was in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
I have endometriosis, so I get really bad cramps, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to do all the things I told you about and use ibuprofen in order to get through and be paid free. Yeah. So anyway, 25, 30 sprays. We stopped, we got some lunch. After about 20, 30 minutes, my cramps were gone. And I was high to the point where I handed over the keys to the employee to drive.
Oh no.
Okay, so you can't get super effing high.
You can.
Okay.
R&D.
R&D indeed.
You can. That was definitely R&D. I was uncomfortable because I was doing sales calls. I didn't intend to be high.
Totally.
But I no longer had pain from
Yeah,
pain.
just say at least the cramps were gone. And you had someone to drive you. You weren't by yourself.
Could have been worse.
Yeah. So it all worked out in the end, but still.
That was a good question.
Thank you for being vulnerable with us.
Thanks for sharing.
Being able to answer that question.
Yeah, way too much information, but.
That's interesting because when you think like 15 milligrams, and if you're not really getting high, then someone I'm sure is going to be like, just keep on going. Let's get the party started. So it's important for budtenders, because I'm sure a question like that will come up to them. So the budtenders listening, thank you for your story. I'm thanking you for the budtender.
Because yeah, so that would be 56.4 milligrams if at 30 sprays.
Yeah, that's a
So
good
it-
amount.
Yeah, so it doesn't work the same as an edible necessarily because the 15 doesn't get someone who doesn't usually use cannabis high, right?
Mhm.
But it probably would have been like for me now, it would have been the equivalent. I keep a pretty low, I like 10 milligrams. That's great.
Yeah.
So you were flying high.
Yeah, so it felt like probably 25 milligrams for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
interesting. Tell us, what's your favorite product?
It's the Groon Sugar-Coated Pearls Tangelo, and it's a 2-1-1 THC, CBC, and CBG. So it's 10 milligrams of THC, like per little pearl, I guess they call them. 5 milligrams of CBC and 5 milligrams of CBG.
Nice.
Ooh, I like that blend.
Yeah,
Maybe
they
you can
taste
send us
really,
a
really good.
picture after.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll
they
throw it
taste really, really good
Awesome.
too.
What flavor?
And they're
Tangelo?
really nice feeling. Like it feels really good.
And
I
are those
like to
just in
call it-
Arizona?
I'm not sure because it has the Oregon symbol on it.
I think Gron or Grun or however it's GRO with the umlaut N. I think there are in Oregon.
Okay.
Yeah, I
It's
just
not
don't know if they
incredible.
are allowed to have a CBC CBG.
Blend in Oregon.
Oh,
I don't know if they are or not, but if they are, you should definitely try it.
Yeah.
It's a really nice effect.
and CBG is the happy cannabinoid. Remind us what CBC is all about.
CBC is known for its ability to increase levels of anandamide, an important
That's it.
natural endocannabinoid.
That's why it feels so good.
Yeah,
why it feels
yeah.
good.
Another bliss one.
Mhm.
Anandamide
so-
being the endogenous THC that we make in our own body.
Yep, the anandamide. That is
Totally.
that.
Bliss
Yeah,
you
that's
out.
why. Yeah, totally. And I used every single. So there was 10 in the pack, right? And it was consistent. So for me, sometimes if
Awesome.
something advertises itself as sativa, which I know the whole sativa indica thing is not real and it's terpene based and all the things, but the terpenes commonly found in sativa products tend to make me feel a little bit too amped.
Yeah,
Like it can almost push through to anxiety for me, right?
yeah.
Any sort of sativa edible. But what I found with this is that, and it was consistent, is that every single time I used it, which was 10, it was the same consistent feeling of like happiness and a touch of bliss with it.
Cool. That's
It was
neat.
nice.
Definitely gonna keep an eye out for those.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah,
nice.
definitely. They're a really good product. The only thing I don't like is the gelatin in them, but
Oh.
it's just gross.
Yeah, can't win them all.
You can't win them all. But on effects and flavor, it wins.
Cool.
We love that.
Do you have any predictions for topicals as cannabis spas and hospitality start opening up around the country? Do you see topicals getting even more popular? What are your thoughts?
I sure hope so.
Oh, totally.
I sure hope so because I can't even imagine getting a massage without using either a CBD or a cannabis topical. Like that. For me, the days of receiving a massage without that.
I don't think I've actually gotten a massage with CBD oil, which I'm like,
I
why
was
have I
just
not
Thinking
yet?
that. I'm like, damn, I am really missing out on this experience.
There is a massage therapist in Oregon, in Portland area. Her name's Melissa Ballou, and her company is called Imperfect Balance Massage. And she actually uses my massage oil because I have a massage oil for back bar for massage therapists. She uses it with her massages as well. And her customers love it. Her clients, I guess they're clients. Her clients love it.
To seek her out because that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll just
it's-
do a
it's
massage
really
train on
nice.
each other.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. And the other benefit of using a massage oil like a CBD or maybe even a cannabis massage oil is that it also helps the massage therapist's hands.
Oh yeah, totally.
Beneficial.
Totally.
Yeah, so it's a twofer.
Love some
that.
symbiosis.
Love that.
Yep. Me too.
Oh man, that's cool. I had one more question I forgot to ask.
Yeah,
We, especially with topicals, you're talking to a lot of customers who have medical issues that they are seeking help for. However, being in, especially in a recreational industry, but also medical consultants can't really speak to speak to cannabis topicals being used for medical issues. What is your advice for working with it?
So we get people asking on a regular basis if this will work for my arthritis. And then they go into a big long explanation about their medical conditions. And the first thing I tell them is that I am not a medical practitioner. I am not a healthcare professional, and I am not allowed to give medical advice. I suggest that they talk to their physician or their healthcare practitioner about using certain products. And I also assure them that they don't enter the bloodstream, so that they can also tell their medical practitioner or healthcare provider that same thing. That said, it's always been the biggest challenge in our business, because so many people want to use, the reason they want to use topicals is the same thing that we can't say. We're not allowed to say. So we don't. We don't tell them. We can say it gives great relief, but we can't tell you what it relieves. Right?
Totally.
It's that. Now, there's a lot of companies out there that don't mind breaking the rules, and they'll even have their products segmented by, like, the product categories on their website segmented by pain, sleep.
Right.
I'm not one of those people. I'm definitely a rule follower as far as that stuff goes. So I'm always very careful, and I don't ever make medical claims about our products. Budtenders can speak to their own experiences or the experience of a loved one and specifically say this is the experience. I can't do any of it, but a budtender can. A budtender can say, if they have a legitimate experience with a certain product, they can say, I've used this and it helped with my XYZ, or that kind of thing. But that's only if they're speaking about a personal experience. But there's liability involved if you ever say that it works for anything.
It's so tricky. And yeah, it's going to be probably one of the trickiest things that we have to deal with until federal legalization or descheduling.
Yeah. And so if I had $5 million, I could commission some studies and I could get permission to say certain things about products, but I don't have $5 million.
So you can't use your other people's studies in reference to the effects that you might feel?
There haven't been enough studies on people.
Fair. Yeah.
The federal government has done a really good job of blocking access to legal cannabis and blocking studies from happening. Not funding studies unless they are studies that show that it's addictive.
Totally.
They've done a really good job of not funding studies that can show potential benefits unless there's major money to be made by a specific pharmaceutical company. So that's been problematic in that way. But and again, a lot of the studies, like the studies that I get my information from, are preclinical. They're oftentimes done on mice, and mice are not humans. I feel comfortable with the information because I have almost 20 years of anecdotal evidence, but none of this is anything I could ever say on my website.
Totally. Stay ambiguous, folks.
Exactly.
Yeah,
honestly,
it just is what it is. Get relief. You can get relief.
Get your relief.
Yeah.
We're leaving people all over the place.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I think that is a wonderful place for us to conclude this conversation today. Some main takeaways are that topicals are an effective entry point to cannabis for folks who are looking for relief but don't want to get high. Most topicals don't reach the bloodstream. Topicals don't reach the bloodstream, but you might have a transdermal product that might. But they're fairly low risk, and you can get a lot of benefit from CBD topical formulas. And topicals are a wonderful example of how cannabis is beneficial beyond the psychoactive high. The uses are widespread and growing. Do you have any final thoughts for us, Trista?
Oh, I'm really excited. Yeah, I'm really excited about the new formulation. We used to be a 1-to-1 product with THCA, CBD, and now it's a 1-to-3 because I found with my CBD line that the efficacy really seems to have improved with the added CBD in the product. So the 1-to-3 really seems to be great, and I'm really excited about it. I'm also excited about the new look. We updated our logos and updated the branding and all together, and I'm really excited about launching here in Arizona when I know there's a ton of people that we can potentially help.
Absolutely. And that's so exciting. I'm also very excited for you in Arizona. And thank you again for coming on to our show and being vulnerable with us a little bit. Lastly, where can we find you and your business on the internet for anyone who wants to follow?
Yeah, so you can find our CBD products at empowerbodycare.com, and then you can find, coming soon to a dispensary in Arizona, you can find our cannabis products. And when we start getting into dispensaries, they will be listed on the website as well.
Amazing.
Sorry, and that website is empowercanacare.com.
Empowercanacare.com.
Cool, thank you.
We'll have it in the show notes.
Bong rips and pizza chips.
I feel like stoners sleep on topicals.
Yes.
But they are seriously amazing.
Yes.
They're a great entry point for so many different kinds of customers because so many people are just looking for relief for their aches and pains. People don't realize like how much CBD interacts with the skin and how it can repair and help cellular reformation.
Mm-hmm. And I think people also forget that our skin is our biggest organ. And of course, our skin is going to interact with these molecules in the way that they do because our whole system does. So, yeah, I think it's just like the science of it all is also so interesting.
So interesting.
So
that was a great conversation.
That was a really good conversation.
Thank you so much to Trista. Go check out her products. If you're in Oregon or Arizona, at Empower Canacare, and if you're anywhere, you can get her CBD products, which I use.
I would recommend those to anybody.
I love them.
I think I have recommended them to everybody. They really are amazing. She does a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, mega thank you to our sponsors, VeriHeal. If you are looking to acquire a medical marijuana card and don't know where to go, check out veriheal.com. They will link you up with a cannabis physician to help you get your marijuana card. veriheal.com. Check them out. Thank you for sponsoring us.
And make sure you check out our giveaway that we've been promoting all season long. We're collabing with Gary from Cool Smoke sorry, I just realized I think we forgot to mention that this is a prize and like everything except for maybe the first one.
That's fine. That's fine. It'll be a surprise.
Okay.
They'll check it out on the Instagram.
On the pin post. Okay.
And we also swapped lines this time, so
that's okay. Giveaway. Okay.
Giveaway.
And you've been hearing about this all season long. Make sure you enter our giveaway. We have 3 prizes on 3 platforms. That means 3 chances to win. And we are collaborating with Gary from Cool Smoke, who sent us some really great prizes. We have one of the 2-piece wood pipes in pear wood. We have one of the full 2-piece 2-pipe smokers kits that has pear wood and ebony pipes. And then we also have a beautiful sandalwood rolling tray with some really pretty blue resin cracks throughout.
It's cute.
It's amazing. Check out our pin posts on Instagram at TakeRoot. Sorry. There's so many things. Check out our pinned post on Instagram at chronicals_420 for information on how to enter. You can also check out our pinned post on TikTok at take.root.trainin for the second giveaway. And for the third giveaway, sign up for our newsletter list, our newsletter email list, because we're going to be giving it away to one of our email subscribers as well.
What a deal. What a fun activity that is. This giveaway, I'm just excited about Giveaway. And now you've made it to the end of the episode. That means you get to receive a discount code for Root Knowledge, a Bud Tender's Guide to Cannabis. That is our individual budtender course that teaches you everything that you need to know to sell cannabis on the sales floor. Just check out takeroottraining.com to purchase your budtender course. And before you hit purchase, make sure you type in TPH Season 2. That's the discount code. TPH Season 2. That's TPH SEASON and the number 2. Just type it into the little discount code part and get $150 off. That's saving more than you're spending. $150 off. So there's no better deal than that anywhere, ever.
Anywhere. If you like this episode, if you like our show, please the episode and subscribe to our channel and share with your friends, your budtender friends, your favorite dispensary. We are trying to grow our audience and make sure that great cannabis education makes it all across the industry. So help us and share.
Make sure you follow us on the Instagram and the TikTok that Ashleen said earlier. That's at chronicgals_420. You can also find us at Take Root Training on Instagram. Find us on YouTube under Chronic Gals or the Talking Potheads. Find us on TikTok at take.root.trainin, no G, and at Talking Potheads Podcast on TikTok for all your social media needs.
We got you.
We got you.
And make sure you visit our website at takeroottraining.com for information on all of our training programs and to shop for our amazing coloring books. We have our Chill Spectrum coloring book all about terpenes, and we just dropped our ECS coloring book all about how cannabis interacts with the human body. So check those out.
All right, potheads, keep learning
And keep growing.